Let's dive into all of this right now. All right, and welcome everybody to the Aries Tarrington Show. This is the third one, and look who I've got with me as the special guest on the Aries Tarrington Show today. We have Desy from Metamorphic Customs. Desy, what's going on?
Hey Aries, just a nice day here. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Always good stuff to talk about. So really happy to be here. We're gonna have some fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and it's so glad to have you on the third show. It's kind of still in the morning. I still have my coffee right here, and there's certainly a lot to be brewing when it comes to Star Wars. How excited are you about this book of Boba Fett that's coming out? I think it's December 29th. I was a little surprised it was going to be at the end of the month, but I'm very glad we're going to get it still, this year, between, in the middle of the holidays. But how stoked are you for that?
Really stoked, right? Because I've always liked Boba Fett, but when people ask me, why do you like Boba Fett? It's like, well, because of the design, right? Because come on, he got punked on Return of the Jedi, right? We all know that, but now we actually see. I mean, it's like, okay, he matches his character matches the design. It's a badass design. It's a great series so far. Well, the Mando series. So really looking forward to Book of Boba. Can't wait. Western
Yeah.
gunslingers, right? In space.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and I feel like he's going back to Tatooine, and obviously that's where we saw Timothy Oliphant playing, Cobb Vanth, and he had his armor that he has back now on. And I don't know if you remember or if you ever seen, or maybe some of the people watching have seen Justified, with Timothy Oliphant, and he basically was, a marshal. He was kind of like,
Yeah.
a cop of some sorts, and it was kind of great to see him, in the first episode of the Mandalorian season 2. And I wonder if he's going to show up again. What do you think?
I'd say so. I mean, because I saw a few episodes of Justified, right? But I would agree. It was basically the same character, no? From
Yeah, I
Justified
know, right?
in Mando, which I thought was good. It was nice. So if he's gonna come up in another show, I wouldn't think it would be the Mando show. I think it would be Book of Boba, right? It's perfect. Like you said, he's going back to Tatooine. That's where the end credits left off of Mando and Tatooine. So yeah, I think he'd pop up.
Yeah, and it kind of has that whole gunslinger vibe, and Boba Fett, like you were talking about before. I'm really pumped up about the show. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like it's going to be the Mandalorian season 3, or I guess people are saying it's Mandalorian season 2.5. What do you think?
I don't. You know what? I don't know. In my head,
Yeah,
and I could be wrong. I'm thinking it's its own thing. It will have its similarities because Mando show was supposed to be kind of like a western, right? Even you can hear it in the theme song, you could hear it everywhere, right?
yeah.
But I think this is going to be its own spin-off kind of thing. We'll see. We'll see.
I hope so. I hope so, because I don't want it to be like an episode, like a season 2.5. Although I'm hearing a lot of that, but I do think there's going to be some aspects where they do tie in a lot of these characters to kind of promote. I think they got to promote a lot of their future shows. They certainly want to. I think that they know that the Mandalorian season 3 is not till towards the end of 2022 or the fourth quarter. So I think you're going to get some tie-ins. I mean, I think so as well, especially with, I think you might see the Mandalorian in there. I thought I heard some reports that maybe he was on set, Grogu was on set, or I actually saw something when I was looking on the internet, looking at rumors and spoilers, that some of their staff shirts have a Grogu.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very interesting to me. What do you think about that?
Well, I saw an interview where I don't know if it was Entertainment Weekly or what one of these sites, right? Where it was a video interview and it was Pedro Pascal interviewing Ewan McGregor and back and and you and McGregor interviewing Pedro Pascal. So you and ask like a questions like, "Oh yeah, I just finished filming, the Obi-Wan show, and I know you're filming, right?" And then Pedro Pascal says, "Yeah, um, cause you know what? Let me shut up." Right? He's like, and that's how he ended it, right? So yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see him, given everything that's going on. But it would be funny if there's if Grogu's in it, if Boba Fett kind of just shows up and meets Din Djarin and kind of takes Grogu out of a bag. Says, "Did you lose this?"
Ah,
Like, because it'd be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens.
okay, so that you bring up a good point, Desi, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up onto the screen. And let me go ahead and share it when we're talking about Grogu. And you know that I've called him the new Mickey Mouse.
And he
And
is.
I I'm wondering if there are some report, you see like an insignia of Grogu on some of their staff shirts, and you seen like you heard like you just mentioned Pedro Pascal, and let me be quiet, he's interviewing there. Who'd you say with Ewan McGregor?
Ewan McGregor. Yeah.
Yeah, so I almost feel like because this caused so much of a buzz, and look at all the Grogu hats at Disney World, and all these and even all the merchandise that they sell, even in the Marvel stores, all the stores around Disney, all the reports. This attracted so many people that are Star Wars fans. You have to wonder, and whether either in some kind of the ending credits or at some point, um, they have them show up for a portion of an episode, where they maybe help Boba Fett or they tie something in. And right now, really, I don't know how they would do this, because I do imagine that Pedro Pascal is probably, as you were saying, in the Book of Boba Fett. But right now, he doesn't have Grogu. It's Luke Skywalker that has Grogu. But you know what's interesting to me? One of the most memorable scenes from Return of the Jedi was when Luke met Bib Fortuna coming into Jabba's palace. And he said, "Oh, you serve your master well, and you'll be rewarded." And he choked that right before that, a little bit the Gamorrean guards, and then he walks in, and you kind of saw that scene walking in from the corridor into the palace, even at the end with him and Fennec, when Bib Fortuna was back, and then he did him in. I'm almost wondering if there would be a reason why Luke would show up in the Book of Boba Fett, and I think that there's many reasons why he could, because um he's trying. I guess he's looking to take over as being the crime boss. We know that Darth Maul was the leader of the Crimson Dawn or whatever that is, and
Hmm.
Lucas wanted him to be around during the sequel, so maybe he will be around. Um, and you're gonna have certainly other people, I think, kind of vying for. I don't think Boba Fett's gonna sit on that throne, and you're not gonna have any opposition. Oh, that belongs to me, baby. I don't know. I think, how can Luke fit in here, in your opinion?
I think, off the top of my head, there's a couple of ways. The most obvious ones is exactly what you're saying, right? If Boba's taking over, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to oppose that from a kind of like a gunslinger, kind of like a mafia, kind of, all the other people trying to come in. But there's also going to be people visiting him saying, "Hey, I know you're here. I'm just checking in on you." And that
Mm,
could be like Luke's role. It's like, I've got my eye on you, especially no matter what, it's home for Luke, right? It's Tatooine. So it's like, hey, I just
good
want to let you
point.
know that I know you're here, and keep it on the download, right? Like, it's one of those check. And of course, if he shows up, his Grogu's with him. That's one way. I mean, the other way, which I find less likely, is if for some reason Boba Fett finds out that Luke has Grogu and he doesn't know that Din Djarin gave it to him, and he thinks that Luke stole him or something, and that last episode of season two, and then he goes after to try to get Grogu for. I don't think that's going to happen, right? But that's the other way.
Boy, but you know what? That's a real interesting theory there, because and one of the reasons why I think what you just said could be possible is, I don't know if you remember some of the old, you're talking about gunslinger shows, like think about Walker Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris,
Yeah.
in those 10 seasons, or whatever it was, or think about back, I think about my second favorite sci-fi everything is Battlestar Galactica. I'm a huge
Yeah,
whether it's the original Battlestar Galactica, with Richard Hatch and Dirk Benedict, or the new one with Edward James almost, and also Katie Sackhoff, who's now Bo-Katan, but she
great
was
shows,
Starbuck.
great shows.
Great shows. But if you go back to the original Battlestar Galactica with Richard Hatch and Dirk Benedict, it was very kind of free, and
Hmm.
it was kind of a westerny, and the story was kind of just like pleasant. It was a real good family show. It didn't have to be real intricate, and it didn't have to kind of. It could just be. And the same thing with the Walker Texas Ranger. I feel like if Luke just showed up to just check on Boba, like I know you're back, and this is my home world, or Boba looking there like, oh, you have Grogu, wait, that's my friend Din Djarin, and then has a little battle with Luke, and Luke like, what's going on? Well, you know what? I guess my point is what would be the purpose of that? But kind of like it's just kind of a free spirit. It doesn't have to be a major storyline. It could just be a reason to have
Yeah,
them in the show.
yeah. It could get Boba Fett off of Tatooine if they need to get him off Tatooine for any of the what's. Well, how many episodes is it? Is it 8 or
I
is it less
think
than
it's
that?
6, maybe it is 8.
It's
I'm not
6.
actually too
Yeah,
sure. Maybe
yeah.
it's 6
So
or 8. Maybe it
yeah,
is 8. I actually think they had all
right on.
these leaked out, and it's kind of funny because I heard that the title of the last episode kind of maybe makes people think about uh it's how like you get some of these leaks of what the title of the actual show is, and you could kind of
Oh
read
yeah.
into what does it means.
Well, remember the titles of the songs for or the music for episode 1 when they came out, and it kind of spoiled Qui Gon's death. I remember that. But
Yeah,
anyhow, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's where I didn't study all of these titles, but even without that, like I could certainly see, for me, I think that having Luke in there, even if it's just for a fun thing or just for something as not as novel as just for an episode to get him off Tatooine, or just to see Grogu and Luke, and may the Force be with you at the end, or I'll keep my eye on you. Where it doesn't have to be so hardcore. What's the storyline now? Where is exactly this going to lead? I mean, I almost feel like it can be a little free spirited, and with some little breadcrumbs to future in some of these shows.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't. It could have that free spirited nature of like Battlestar, the original Battlestar, right? It doesn't have to be. Although it's a western, although it's Boba Fett, I think people would be surprised if it wasn't gritty. Disney gritty. But but I think people will be surprised if it's free spirited like that. It'll be kind of like a fresh, a fresh take on it. And of course, some people wouldn't like it. That's fine. You can't please everyone, right? But that would be interesting for sure.
Well, and Desi, you have to wonder how much of a cash cow this is for Disney. And I think sometimes you have to look in perspective of how they would look at this. If people that aren't into Boba Fett or aren't Star Wars fans, because let's just be frank, I know a lot of people that aren't Star Wars fans
Mhm.
that watch The Mandalorian because of this guy. Do you? I mean, I know
Yes. Yep.
quite a few.
I know a lot of people that have never seen a Star Wars movie that watched the Mando on Disney Plus, both seasons, and they thought it was. I was like, oh, I've never seen Star Wars, but that Mando show's great. I've heard that various times.
I
So,
mean, then how possible is it from a business perspective, a casting perspective, um, that they from Favreau and Filoni's perspective, that somehow they make sure that Grogu's in there. Because if some of these people find out that Baby Yoda's in it, even if they weren't interested in watching the Book of Boba Fett, would they turn it on to find out when the child shows up?
oh yeah, and like I always say, I approach this two ways. If I'm like you said, if I'm Disney, right? If I'm John Favreau, I got to get people watching this stuff. I'm gonna fit Grogu in there one way or the other, right? As that's one way. The other way, as a viewer, no, I don't want to see Grogu in this. I love Grogu, but I just want focus on Boba Fett. That in and of itself, and all the gunslingers, in other words, bounty hunters. That's good enough for me. But yeah, if I'm Disney, I'm fitting in Grogu one way or the other because it's gonna bring in more viewers.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I feel like with Mickey Mouse that it's going to tie a lot of it's almost like it's I feel like he's going to be the core, the glue that may tie in all Star Wars into each other in some way, shape, or form. And right now, he is active and he is alive during the time of the Book of Boba Fett, obviously, in The
Mhm.
Mandalorian. It's going to be in the Ahsoka series. And then they specifically called out, or Ahsoka Tano did, when they were, when she was communicating to Grogu, that he escaped the Jedi Temple during Order 66.
Mhm.
And you are going to be having the forthcoming Obi-Wan series, the Andor series, this series, that series. Is it possible, Desi, that Grogu is going to be an integral core part, a nucleus of the new Star Wars that's going to tie a lot of things in together and possibly use that as a mechanism for people that are just casual fans just watching The Mandalorian to want to learn more about Star Wars and get them to watch other things in the network?
100%. 100% possible, and we're already seeing that. Like I said, people who don't even know about Star Wars know who Grogu is, or don't know the name, but know that thing, right? That cute little alien creature. So, and want to watch him because he's cute, right? So, it's worked. It's working. So, why not, like you said, use it to put him in all the shows, somehow fit him in, and use it to tie everything together cohesively. Cohesively, not just throw him in there, but they could cohesively make it work. So, absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like if they don't try real hard, if they just make it like we're talking about the Battlestar Galactica from
Mhm.
the late 70s, and we're talking about Walker Texas Ranger or Justified, or even what they've done in the Mandalorian. Even though the Mandalorian has had a lot of fan service and a lot of cool things, it seems like that could perhaps correct or tie some things in together, or create a segue to tie things in, or create perhaps an alternate reality or type of thing. I feel like they need to keep it cool,
Mhm.
fun, gunslinging. I mean, look what Boba Fett did in episode 6 of The Mandalorian season 2. When he was even in the robes, and he was like, I mean, I don't know. Have you ever remembered Stormtroopers' armor cracking like that? I don't remember that in any of the Star Wars.
Cracking? No. No, the
It's
closest
kind
is
of
probably Rogue One. I don't think it cracked when, Chirrut was, wailing on him, but no. Although that was the first time, most people don't know that I saw, Stormtrooper armor actually deflect a blaster shot. It was in Rogue One, and it's you barely see it, but you actually see deflect. It's like, "Oh, their armor really does work sometimes." 1% of the time.
yeah, sometimes, right?
Not really.
Sometimes when they aim, they
Yeah.
can actually hit something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so funny how many times I've watched this with my family, or we're watching Star Wars, and we're like, can these stormtroopers hit anything?
No. It's like you know it's funny, but, yeah, I gotta love Stormtroopers. But no, I've never seen it crack other than in that episode, which was pretty cool.
Well, I think that they wanted to show just how amazing and just how tough and just how, bad Boba Fett,
Mhm.
but Boba Fett is. And it's kind of funny because I almost felt like there was undertones like, who's really tougher, Din Djarin or Boba Fett? It's kind of
Yeah.
like, I was so glad, I was so stoked when they teamed up together. I had like such a tingling sensation in my body, like seriously, just a big smile watching Boba Fett become like Captain Spock, or the second in command to Din Djarin, in the Slave One and stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was just like really tickled pink on how they did it.
It would have been a heck of a combo, and it was for a short time. I mean, the way that we saw Boba fight, right? It was basically, hey, his character's a badass, right? And then with the way we've seen Din Djarin fight, especially in that season one episode where he meets Bill Burr's character, right? And they're on the space prison, and most people were saying he looked like John Wick or like Batman when he was showing up behind Bill Burr's character, and then he's in the front and he's in the shadows, and he was badass. So yeah, them together makes for great interaction, and that's why I think we'll probably see Din in Book of Boba. But yes, them together, awesome.
Here's an interesting thing about Samuel Jackson and Mace Windu. And I'm going to bring up something that's crossed my mind that I want to see if it crossed your mind. I really think he's going to show up. I think he just about leaked it by mistake on Twitter, but I think he's going to show up in some capacity in the book of Boba Fett. I don't know what your feelings are.
I agree. I agree that he probably will show up. If it's not in the Book of Boba, it's something else. But I think it's in the Book of Boba, right?
Yeah, the Django. I mean, he killed Django.
Yeah. I it's this is Book of Boba. He killed Jango, right? Boba's father. If he's gonna show up, if somebody wants something, something with this guy, if he wants to confront this guy, it's gonna be Boba that wants to confront him for some reason.
Well, I think that Favreau and Filoni are clever, and it was kind of funny because some people joked about how many times he mentioned Django in The Mandalorian season 2. And I guess you could automatically assume they're doing that to kind of because they wanted to really emphasize that it's okay for him to have the armor for Din Djarin to allow the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy, which is Boba Fett, is going to allow him to have the armor, right? But is it possible that they were also doing that because they wanted to show how passionate Boba is about his dad? And were they possibly setting up something that they already knew that Sam Jackson was going to return as Mace Windu?
I think so. I think so. Exactly for those reasons. They were setting up like I said, that passion he has for not only the Mandalorian lifestyle, but the trauma he has with his father. I mean, he saw him die in front of him, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't one of those, oh, son, no, no, it was lost his head, literally. So
Yeah.
it's traumatic.
Well, and let me ask you this. I'm gonna. This is something that's also crossed my mind. I think we automatically assume, you know, Boba Fett is kind of like that dark Jedi feel. He's kind of like he's not good. He's not bad. He's not Sith. He's not Jedi. He goes his own way. He's going to do whatever Boba wants. So kind of really teetering on the edge of being a villain, but not necessarily a villain. But in the end, he's always going to do the right thing and save like Grogu or do the right thing, right? He kind of has that Western armor, that
Hmm.
honor, excuse me.
Hmm.
I think that we automatically assume that he's going to be the one that's going to be bad and may go off the edge and be really bad, and that Mace Windu, if he comes back, is just good. But you have to wonder: is Mace Windu actually going to be good at this point? Is it possible that they can take a story arc where, please, not depressed like Hobo Luke was, but maybe he's aggravated? Maybe
Yeah,
Mace is a dark Jedi. Maybe Mace is like, you know what? I didn't deserve all this. Maybe Mace is kind of a little bit changed. I don't know. It's kind of crossed my mind, and not necessarily a bad guy. But could he be changed a little bit, Desi?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you ask that because even for me, watching the original or the prequel trilogy, right? Um, I always thought Mace was like a lot of the console, right? The console, it's kind of a bit of bit of an ass, if I could say that. So I could see it getting worse after losing a hand, after being betrayed. Like, mm, could he have turned, a stone, turned a leaf, and like got better? Sure, but I don't think so. I think it probably progressively got worse, and he could be a villain-like character in the Book of Boba. Not saying that Boba himself isn't questionable, right? He's teetering on the edge, right? But so can Mace if he shows up.
Yeah, I think it can be a very interesting dynamic. And I know some people have thought about that. What are the things that I think could happen here with Mace? And, I've brought this up before. And pulling Mickey Mouse back up onto the screen. They did emphatically let us know that he survived Order 66 and the attack on the temple. Somebody had to get him out of there before the temple was attacked. Now, he doesn't exactly walk really fast, Grogu. And unless he was on vacation somewhere, like in the Bahamas or whatever the equivalent is of the Bahamas down in that galaxy.
Scarif.
Scarif, there you go. Yeah, baby. I mean, come on. Got that trooper sick. But
Yeah.
anyway, those that whole design. But I I'm wondering, Mace flew out the window, got thrown out the window, missing his arm, got badly electrocuted, could have landed on the bottom with one hand or on his feet, could have been obviously in pain or whatever, but could have scrambled his way. Because remember, the temple wasn't being attacked when he was thrown out the window, Desi. And the Emperor and Darth Vader at that point needed to have a conversation. He could have quickly have whatever in one of the pods and one of the vehicles and in something. He could have gotten to the temple, it's basically, right there in town, and gotten Grogu out. Because, and here's the interesting thing about that, and why would he choose Grogu? Because there was interaction in Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan and Yoda and Mace are in the transport vehicle, and Obi-Wan is questioning, "Hey, isn't he the chosen one?" And then, Sam Jackson says, "Well, as supposedly as the prophecy says." And then Yoda said, "A prophecy could have been misread." So there was already some breadcrumbs thrown in there and some suggestions that maybe he wasn't the chosen one. Well, then who else could it be? So I'm wondering if they're going to tie something like in this together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the most for me, that's the clearest way, right? Exactly what you just said. He goes out the window, Mace. He doesn't die. Obviously, if they're bringing him back, he doesn't die in that scene, and he gets Grogu out. He finds Grogu, he gets him out. Why? Because maybe that's why Mace said, "Hey, they're," or Yoda said a prophecy that badly, written or interpreted, right? Maybe Mace thinks that it's not Anakin. Maybe Mace thinks no, it's Grogu, and that's why he's being and the council is being such, bad guys to Anakin, right? They're always kind of putting him second string and won't promote him because they're like, I don't know, this Grogu guy. We're not telling anybody about him because he seems pretty powerful. So maybe that's why.
That's coffee spilling because you bring up a great point. Because if he really was the chosen one and Mace was really convinced he was the chosen one, he probably would have let a lot of things slide. It would have been more like, "Oh, I got to teach this young whippersnapper how to go ahead and be mature." But I know he's the chosen one. You bring up a great point because there was a lot of that in the prequels where it just looked like he didn't wasn't very fond of Anakin, to be honest with you. Maybe he thought all along that he wasn't the one.
Yep. And both in what we saw in the prequels and what we heard of like in the books, some books I haven't read, but and the novelization of it, like we heard that Anakin didn't just turn or snap like that, like we saw in episode 3. We were, there was a lot leading up to that, how the council wasn't listening to him and he was trying to make positive change, and then it just kind of led up to what we saw on episode 3. So yeah, yeah, to your point, Aries, I think it would make a lot of sense to see that. And now it's like, oh, now we realize why, because they were just kind of letting Obi-Wan have his way, and it's like, all right, Qui-Gon wanted it out of respect. You can train this guy; he is pretty powerful. But all along, maybe they thought it was Grogu.
Wow, it's they can really and I bet you like you and I are having this conversation. Do you think George Lucas and Favreau and Filoni and some of the folks at Disney had these conversations as well? Because I think that they have. It probably
Yeah,
way deeper than what we're going.
yeah. I mean, just think about it. How you would have any kind of concepting thing out at any job, right? Like we would sit down. At the very minimum, it was on the table what we've been talking about, right?
Yes, yes,
Even
for
if
sure.
they just looked at it and said no. Moving on, right? They at least this among many other things they talked about, right? Because they're trying to connect the dots and trying to show how everything is connected, right? It's all about franchising, and this is what it is, right? So, yeah,
Well, and it's real interesting to me because let me ask you this because I've been trying to think this through. If Mace was the one that got Grogu out of there, And maybe he is, maybe he was. To me, it makes great sense because that's a great way to tie Sam Jackson in this. Not only, I think he's the most logical person out of all the people they brought back from the dead. His fall out of the window is makes the most sense. So I'm pretty sure he's not dead. But to tie him in immediately with Grogu makes a ton of sense. But let me ask you this: if he did rescue Grogu, how did Grogu get into the hands of Gideon? Because obviously he was in the hands of Gideon before Gideon got him back. Is and I guess here's where I'm going with this. Did something happen with Mace where he changed a little bit, a little dark Jedi-ish, and or is he, or he's good, he's just, he's good, he's just scarred. Let's go that way. Did he bring him somewhere where he felt that Grogu would be safe and then he's going to regret it now? It's like, oh, I should have kept my eye on him. I shouldn't have left him here. I should have known better. Is it that type of thing? Is it something where he went to the highest bidder? You know where I'm going here? I mean, I feel like that there's a few ways that they can go with this, but at the end of the day, Desi, if he had Grogu, why doesn't he have him still?
That's a good question. It could just be a I lost him kind of thing. That happens all the time in any kind of movie, especially Star Wars. Hey, we lost him, right? Or it could be the much darker path where it's like, hey, I don't believe in this chosen one thing anymore, and I don't, in this prophecy. You know what, Grogu, you're on your own. He dropped him off, in front of a firefighter station, whatever, and moved on, or sent him to gave him to the highest bidder. I don't think he would have given it to the Empire. Maybe dropped him off somewhere, but not giving him directly to the Empire. Either way works from a story perspective.
He could have felt like, I know what happened to Anakin. I know how good he was. I'm not going to let this happen again with another chosen one.
Hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't think so, but there's a lot of possibilities
yeah,
that they can do with this here.
absolutely.
Regardless, though, I really think that, and I really believe it's going to be before the end of the year in either an official announcement or a tease relating this to Hot Toys, that we're going to get this figure. I'm a little surprised it hasn't come out yet, but I feel like now is the time. Now I get the point that, but wait a minute, if Sam Jackson's coming back, there's going to be an older version, probably with some scars. You're going to have that version. But I bring up the thing about the Clone Wars Ahsoka, and a lot of people thought that they weren't going to come out with the Rosario Dawson Ahsoka until the series, and that's not coming out till 2023. Yet they came out with them at the same time. I think Mace, at least to me, is just as popular as Ahsoka. So I can certainly see two Maces on the market, just like they're doing with. They're gonna have no problem selling those Ahsokas. They would have no problem doing this, and there's a lot of collectors that can use this in their Clone Wars and prequels collection. Um, I think that this is coming, and I don't. I want to get into a little bit with you about. There's so many more Marvel pre-orders and things in stock than there are Star Wars, but there's also so many more in the secondary market. And I just feel like that this makes sense, that this is something, even if they limited it, if they're like, well, I don't know if people would buy 20,000 in the US of this figure, or 20,000 in Europe of this figure, 40,000. I don't think that they need to. I think that they would be fine if they can sell as much as Qui-Gon.
Yeah, for sure. Think about it this way, right? As from a sales perspective, think about it this way: if Mace Windu was not a character and never existed in Star Wars, but you had the option of having a toy of Sam Jackson dressed up as a Jedi, you'd probably take that option and buy that toy. Because Sam Jackson is such a cool actor, he's such a cool person, and then have him dress up a Jedi. Well, now he is a character, so yes, I think this would sell. I think that I agree with you. I think that we'll have an announcement on episode 2, 3, Mace before the end of the year. If not, at least a couple of weeks before the premiere of the Obi-Wan show or something like that. Probably, but
Yeah.
probably before the end of the year. And then if there's another Sam Jackson that's old, missing a hand, whatever, that may or may not pop up during Book of Boba, then we'll have a separate Sam Jackson announce and release then. So yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, and even if even if Sam Jackson doesn't actually appear in the Book of Boba, but they have a purple lightsaber with some robes near the end light up, zzz, everybody's going to go nuts. I mean, they can. We haven't talked about that. They could actually do it that way, where it's like he didn't really come in, but he did come in. Or who
Yeah.
else has a purple? I mean, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, anything, and we all know it's all about those after credits scene, right? Because they're the previews for the next season or the next show. So I think we're definitely getting a Sam Jackson Hot Toy that announced an episode 2 and 3, and then of course any variation of him as he shows up in the Book of Boba or not, right? Like you said, it might just be an end credit scene where you see a purple lightsaber ignite, and that's all you see. But yeah,
That would be cool as
absolutely,
heck. That'd be.
yeah.
I'd be fine with that. Um,
Hmm.
I know you're. You do metamorphic customs. We'll talk about some of that stuff later on in the show. But from an artist perspective, and someone who's in that business, they already have a Samuel L. Jackson head sculpt. I think that they can use that one, the Nick Fury one, the same head sculpt. Of course, they have the one eye specific. I mean, they can go ahead and change the paint. They can kind of add something. But I think for the main part, I think that this is done. I mean, doesn't it seem like it's a no-brainer that they need to put this out?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, it's going to require a little bit of sculpting on that first Nick Fury sculpt, but it's also they also have a Sam Jackson head sculpt from what is it, the Spirit, where he doesn't have an eye patch, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they did
Okay.
I forgot his character's name, right? But he was in, I think it was the Spirit, and they have that hot toy, so they can go back to that, and use that, or they can perfect it because that was years ago. That was over a decade ago, I believe,
Hmm.
right? So they can perfect that sculpt. But honestly, I think at this point they're probably going to come out with a sculpt. I think the character warrants it because you can use the new head sculpt as an updated Nick Fury head because we know he's going to be in the that Scroll show, the Disney Plus Marvel Scroll Secret Invasion show. He's going to
Yes.
be in that, right? Plus, he's going to be. You can use him as for the Mace figure, which you haven't released yet. Plus, you can then alter that and use him as an older version if he ever comes back in the Book of Boba show. So I think it's worth just having a new head sculpt at this point. It's not about going back to the old ones, but if they do, they have Sam Jackson head sculpts they could use.
Yeah, I really think it's just coming. I mean, I think does it do better or worse than Qui Gon?
Better.
Yeah.
I think it does better. Qui Gon was in one movie. Well, one movie, maybe a show coming up, right? So we don't know. We don't know that. That might trigger that second market value on Qui Gon to go up. We'll see. We'll see how that happens after the Obi-Wan show. But yeah, no, I think Mace will do better than Qui Gon. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
and
opinion.
I'm pulling this up onto the screen because I want to pick your brain on this a little bit. So I know that you mentioned in the last live show, hey, I don't think that some of these are going to go on waitlist or sell out. I think they'll be in stock, through the holidays and then January. So let's just go with a scenario. And let's say January, or let's even say February. Some of these figures, let me go through them. Rex, 501st, Death Watch Mandalorian. This whole row is going to be gone in February. Certainly with Qui Gon, the Incinerator Trooper, 40th ESB, Fett, Vader, all of those would have been gone. So let's go
Yeah.
with the worst case. Let's say this first row's all gone. Lando's gone. Ahsoka will be gone. The Coruscant Guard, the squad leader would be gone. Kylo Ren would be gone. The armor would be gone. IG-11 would be gone. Rey's already gone. The Clone Wars Mall would be gone. I can go on. The Stormtrooper Commander will certainly be gone. That's a lot of figures that are going to be gone in whether
Mm-hmm.
it's 3 to 5 months.
Yep.
They don't have a whole lot up here. I mean, I've got the quarter scale figures up here. That's fine. They really don't count. And I didn't get a chance to sort this out without them. Um, there's nothing up here for Star Wars, and Star Wars has 4 shows coming out and so much hype. And what I'm wondering is here, when you look, and I get comments and questions all the time, are they going to go ahead and let's not even talk about anything that's non I mean whether you want to just talk about prequels, Clone Wars and Mandalorian. When you look here, you got the battle droid, you got the 212th, you got Padme, you got Casca Reeves, which goes with Bo Katan. You got Axe Woves on the next page, which goes with Bo Katan. You got Grogu. You've got this outfit, this armor, which they're already making right now. They're making this armor for the 2-pack Boba Fett and the regular Boba Fett. You got the battle droid. You got this diorama. You go to the next page. You got Casca Reeves, Axe Woves. And I guess my point is with this is with some of these figures, if we try and look at this logically, that okay, they're going to have 30 somewhat figures in stock or in pre-order in February. Worst case, oh, they're going to come out with just 2 or 3 announcements. In my gut, that's just not jiving unless they're going to go a DC route, Hot Toys with Star Wars, and with how big Star Wars is in a Disney machine. Honestly, Desi, I just don't see it. And before I let you talk on that, even when you go and you look at everything here, and I'm taking Star Wars off, they recently came out with Back to the Future line and came out to it really, really quick and put up, and I'm trying to get all of them up over here, but you're talking about a ton of figures at one time just for Back to the Future, which is cool. And I hope they give us a Biff. And I love Back to the Future, but it's just not Star Wars or Marvel. So I'm thinking that, I mean, at least in my mind, that we're going to get a plethora of announcements in November and December. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. You're gonna get so many Star Wars announcements in December and going in November, December, and then going into spring, right? Maybe slow around. No, as I say, slow around February, but no, because you got toy fairs and whatnot. So no, but I think you're just going to have a series of announcements after announcements. The biggest contender will be probably in March, and as we get into spring, right? Because the Obi-Wan show, when is it? April next year?
Well, it is. And I know that there was recently some type of strike or something, which it means nothing because that show's already pretty much done filming. They'll finish up what they got to finish up. Book of Boba Fett's already done. That one's
Yeah.
done. They're going to have the Obi-Wan next. They're going to have the Andor series after that. They'll certainly have the Mandalorian season 3. So yeah, you're going to have a lot. You're right after Book of Boba Fett. You're going to have Obi-Wan.
The biggest contenders, I think, right here, if you're to that might delay some announcements, right, will be the Spider-Man movie was No Way Home. I don't know if I got that right in December, and then
Yes, the
the
third one with Tom Holland, right? Yes.
right, and the Eternals probably not so much. If we get 1 or 2 figures out of that show, I'd be surprised. Out of that movie, that I'd be surprised, right? But it's really going to be Spider-Man, I think, and then going into next year, Batman in March. And I say
Yeah.
2 to 3 figures at most out of that movie, right? So those are going to be the biggest contenders. Really, your announcements are going to come, I think, like you said, going into the rest of Q4 for this year and Q1 next year. Most of the announcements are probably going to be Star Wars. I would say.
Yeah, and I think that with the bounty hunters, and I think that somehow they're going to tie in what's going to happen in the Mandalorian season 3. Um, that they're going to tie in that whole Mandalore Bo Katan's mission. Is Din Djarin going to team up with Bo Katan? Is he going to be an adversary? Is he going to be able to get the armor and the heavy infantry Mandalorian? There's going to be some point within the Book of Boba Fett where I believe he meets again other Mandalorians. He's the new rebel Mandalorian. Bo Katan doesn't really think he's a real Mandalorian, especially because he's a clone and he's, the way that she was talking like that, and he already had the scuffle with Casca Reeves. I think that there could be a gunslinging episode where they talk about what's going to be upcoming. And I mean, right now, whether it's the armor, the heavy infantry Mandalorian, any Mandalorian like troopers, I feel like I I feel like that they're going to sell really, really well. And so I think that, pulling this back up um onto the screen. I mean, I think the reason why they teased these already twice this year. I think once first was at Sideshow Con, then you're looking at the New York Comic Con. I mean, I I just feel like for them, they know they're gonna sell as much as the Death Watch with this Costco Reeves or this Axe Woves or certainly this Cobb Vanth or certainly this like again this Axe Wolves. I really feel like that's easy for them just come out and I think that that might happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're still going to see releases, and I was going to mention that the is it the Night Owls, right? Um, Axwell's, Ahsoka Reeves, right? They're still going to release Mando season 2 figures that haven't been announced yet. Fennec Shand is one of them. She hasn't technically been announced, so there are still season 2 announcements that have yet to be made and that will be made, especially if we see those Night Owls show up in Book of Boba. Absolutely, and there's like you said, Aries, there's good reason for them to show up in Book of Boba, especially if they're there to pick a fight or just say, like I said before, hey, we've got our eye on you. You know,
Well, and I think what's really cool, and I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a Star Wars fan and collect Star Wars Hot Toys because they're certainly giving you a lot. And I know that I've gotten into I've got hooked into, oh, there's not a Star Wars figure that I really, really, really want that's coming out, but I collect Star Wars Hot Toys, so I'm gonna go ahead and spend my money on these, even though it's not really something that I would want. But I feel like now we're getting a selection, at least for me anyway. I know
hmm
that a lot of collectors they collect them all. I wish I could collect them all. I kind of budget it so that I could really enjoy this without having any kind of like heart attack about money,
yep,
But I'd like the selection because I really feel like I can get what I want within this line. But putting that aside, whether you do it like me or you do it like some other collectors which buy them all, and there's no wrong way, and hopefully you could just afford it. That's number one, and you can have a budget. But I feel like if you come into Hot Toys right now, and obviously the Book of Boba Fett and Disney, there's going to be even more collectors that come in that are going to discover the Book of Boba Fett. They're getting, oh my goodness, let's check this show out. Oh, did you see these Hot Toys? These sculpts are so amazing. I never seen an action figure like that, baby. And then there's what's available. There's no like Darth Vader right now. That's up on there. There's no Han Solo, Harrison Ford that's up and available right now. There's no C3PO that's up and available right now. And there's no R2D2 that's up and available right now. There's no Chewbacca that's up and available. There's no Leia that's up and available. Is it possible, just like Lando last year, out of left field, right at this time, the Lando came out, the Lando was officially announced. Where did that come from? Oh my goodness, Billy D. Williams, let's go, baby. Are we going to get a couple of those in the fourth quarter, besides the obvious Mandalorian? Besides the obvious Clone Wars, you're going to get the Clone Wars Obi-Wan. Besides Fennec, we know that's coming. Are we going to get a couple of ones out of left field? Because you need to. I feel like there's none available right now. You got Lando up there. There's
hmm
nothing for them to buy.
yep, yep. And I've mentioned before, and this is easy for me to say, right? Because I'm not Hot Toys, but there should be Hot Toys should continue with this business model, sure. But there should always be talking Star Wars, just Star Wars. There should be a Darth Vader, a Stormtrooper, and a Boba Fett always in stock at Sideshow. That's not a Sideshow product. I know Sideshow has their Darth Vader and their Luke. They're the Sideshow ones, and I guess how it goes is they get enough orders and they order a production, right? Run, right? Because it's always up for pre-order. No, I'm saying Hot Toys. Hot Toys should have a base Darth Vader, no head sculpt, no back of the head sculpt, right? A Boba Fett, no head sculpt. Stormtrooper, of course, no head sculpt. Always in stock.
Well, Sideshow does, like you
Yeah,
said. I mean, you get the Darth Vader that's up there. You got the
yeah,
C3PO, the R2D2, the Luke Jedi.
yeah.
I, and maybe that's not. I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to see Hot Toys go that way and always have that offered. But if they don't go that way, I mean, could they just reissue for the third time
hmm
that Empire Strikes Back Darth Vader? Or does it even make sense to go the step up now? Because if let's say they reissue that Empire Strikes Back Darth Vader again, which would do well, but you wouldn't get like I wouldn't buy that one again. That you have had that come out twice. But what would get me to actually buy another Darth Vader? And really for new collectors that are coming in, that don't have the A New Hope version, don't have the Rogue One version, don't have the Empire Strikes Back version. They just want Darth Vader, like I said, to have Darth Vader. Not only would you get them to buy this, you would get people like me that already have the other Darth Vader to buy this one. So now you're getting the whole kit and caboodle of collectors to try and chime in and buy this. I mean, to me, this seems like, when we're talking about you got to put up some legacy characters. We talked about Mace. We think that that's coming.
Hmm.
This
So
C3PO, I mean, to me, this I feel like that this is going to come any day.
yeah, I think you're right, Aries. So my idea of always having something in stock, that's idealistic, and frankly, I don't think that's going to happen. That's just me,
Be
like
nice
saying,
though.
yeah, it'd be nice. Those obviously, if they did that, those figures would never have an increased secondary market value, right? Because it's just the ones that are always in stock. But if they're not going to do that, right? So what are they going to do? I would agree with you that I don't think that they would reissue the Empire Strikes Back Vader again, only because they've already reissued it twice. At this point, I think they would go and issue another Vader, right? And that Return of the Jedi in six scale would be the way to go. And yes, it would require new molds because it's six scale, right? Not quarter scale, right? But I
Right,
think
right.
that is the way to go. That is the most likely announcement that you would, they have the design, not the molds, but they have the design already ready to go.
So yeah, and I feel like we got to buckle up, Desi, because I feel like not only are we getting, I mean, I think that this week possibly we can get the Clone Wars ball and the Ahsoka all at once.
Yep.
There may be the Stormtrooper commander coming out. What's the is it the artillery? What's the one with the yellow?
The mustard, the artillery guy,
The artillery guy
artillery.
coming out. Um, you're probably going to get the quarter scales that are due to come out. The quarter scale Mandalorian. You got the Grogu by itself. I
Mhm.
mean, is it possible we're going to get some of the other figures that are due to ship in between January and March? You're going to get the Boba Fett. We've talked about that, the two
Mhm.
pack and the regular with the worn out armor. So you're going to get that. Who knows what other figures they might unload quick? Um, but yeah, it's real interesting. And I was going to pull this up um, onto the screen here, and let me ask you this, and I'm going to pull this up because I'm curious what your perspective is realistically. We've seen what they've come out with Marvel shows with WandaVision, Falcon and Soldier. Um, so far with the Loki series, we've seen what they've come out with the Mandalorian. Um, this here, what figures besides another version of Boba Fett and another version of Fennec, which I think is automatic, could we be getting? I don't feel like with Star Wars that it's limited to two or three figures, to be honest with you, especially if this is a hit like The Mandalorian. I mean, I almost see, I give you a perspective. I think that you're talking about original bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back, IG 88 to me makes sense because they have
Mhm.
an IG 11. What do you think?
Yeah, IG-88. If he shows up here, definitely one. As long as Howard Chan's in charge of Hot Toys, right? You're gonna get multiple figures from these Star Wars shows, and as long as the shows do good, this show will do good. So you're gonna get IG-88. Will we see a Bosk? Right? Will we see a Dengar? All those bounty hunters. I think it's likely, very likely, if they show up on the show, that we're gonna get all of those bounty hunters, and that's what my mind goes to: bounty hunters. I
So
think that's what we're gonna see.
you just mentioned three. You said Dengar,
Bosk.
Bosk, and IG 88.
Mhm.
And we haven't, so that's three figures. And I really believe that they do show up, they come out with that because people are interested in them from the original trilogy.
Mhm.
So that's a no brainer. So now you're talking about three figures. Will they at least have one Boba Fett and one Fennec?
Absolutely.
That's five.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
that's just five. Now,
Mhm.
here's my question to you: what other figures could come out of this? I have some ideas on what they can do, but let me give you a for instance. We can kind of go from there. If Grogu shows up, like we were talking about, if Mace shows up, if Din Djarin shows up, if Casca Reeves shows up, if Axe Wove shows up, Bo Katan shows up, if
Mace. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, how many figures do you think we could get from Hot Toys from this show? Just
I
this
mean,
one show.
it just
Seriously.
really depends. We know the show is gonna do good. How good is it gonna do? Because look at how many figures, both announcement, releases, and teases we have for season 2 of Mando. This Boba Fett
Yeah,
show
it's a
would
lot.
have
It's a
you
lot, bro.
you could see how many do we have of season 1 and season 2 of Mando? This Boba Fett show, you could see up to 10 figures.
Yeah,
Easy. Not all at once. It might be 2 to 3 years where we're still getting announcements, right, from the Book of Boba Fett, depending on how popular that show was. But you can see 10 releases.
you can. And then let me ask you this because you were to ask me before, what's the sequence and what comes out right after? So let's say, just from there, let's say that they don't come out with all of them at once. It's going to sparse those 10 releases throughout next year. So let's say, besides all the ones that we were talking about just for, the Clone Wars and, the Mandalorian season 2, you go ahead and get half of them, that they're going to start putting out real quick, or 5 or 6. What comes out a few months after this?
Obi-Wan.
Now, how many could be coming out of this show? So I think this is how they're going to fill it up. I think what I'm trying to get at here is you got all those figures that they've been teasing, plus some ones out of left field. Now you're saying, and I agree with you, around 10 or so from the Book of Boba Fett. Now start adding these up. Okay, you got some legacy characters left field. You got the rest of the Clone Wars and the Mandalorian season 2. You have the Book of Boba Fett. Now, come on, this is a cash cow for action figure companies because you get a lot of legacy characters in this, Desi.
Yep.
So I'll let you talk first. What do you think that the first couple they could do with this?
So you're obviously it's right there. Obi-Wan. You're gonna have an Obi-Wan, one or multiple, right? But this
Right.
goes back to what we were saying is like, what do we think we're gonna see in Q4 and even Q1 of next year? The most announcements are gonna be Marvel, DC, got a couple contenders in both, but the most announcements we're gonna see is Star Wars. Book of Boba at the end of December, and then Obi-Wan. So we're gonna get Obi-Wan. We're gonna get a Hayden Christensen as Vader somehow. Let's see how he pops up, right? And look at all the actors they've announced for this show, for this Obi-Wan show. They're
Yeah.
thinking it's going to be Inquisitors, and who knows what they are, but they're going to be cool characters, right? They're going to be some samurai type, Jedi type characters that I'm sure are going to get released, right? So it depends how cool each character is, but you're going to see a lot of releases. If I said 10 for Book of Boba, let's see, because this one might be a lot. Heck,
This
even if
one,
it's I was gonna say, even if it's just 5 Obi-Wans and 5 different Vaders, like, you have the potential here.
and let's say they just give you 4. Let's say they give you with the actors that they've already unveiled. Let's say they give you one Obi-Wan, one Hayden Christensen Darth Vader, one of the characters that are in the cast that they showed, and another one. Okay, 4. If these people show up in here, which you know that they are, any of these characters, cash cow, there's no way they don't make a figure of the Emperor if he shows up in here. They do.
Absolutely.
They take the opportunity because it has more to do than just the show. Because people want an emperor just to have the emperor. It's kind of like, oh, I could put out the stormtrooper. I really need the stormtrooper commander from the Mandalorian. No, you don't. You just really need another stormtrooper. You could kind of go into that, and I think here, if this character shows up, that's another figure,
So you
and he
mentioned
could
him.
show up. This is during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, Moff Tarkin is establishing his domain, and right in there trying to navigate with Darth Vader. And as you all know, and as you know from some of the comics and some of the books from the past, some of these guys had perhaps maybe higher rank, Thrawn, Moff Tarkin than Darth Vader, but Darth Vader was untouchable because he was the Emperor's apprentice. And I think there was some type of novel, and I don't remember where the Emperor kind of told all these Moths or something that, hey, you know what, Darth Vader, he's when he speaks for me. So basically, they all learned he has the rank of Darth. He's a Sith Lord. Just whatever he says really goes. And he didn't necessarily have power over Moff Tarkin as you saw in the New Hope or even Thrawn, but they didn't have power over him. And really, if anyone was going to have the final word because he spoke for the Emperor, it really was Vader, even if Vader was being considerate of their rank. So I really feel just from that dynamic to have, Peter Cushing in this, because they're going to have to mix this in with Thrawn. Even though I think Moff Tarkin's probably more of a politician, this is more than Thrawn per se. I just feel like that some of these characters are going to show up.
Yeah, I for sure. For sure, and I think you're right. That's what Vader was, as far as the Empire sees it. Vader was basically the golden boy, right? And
Hmm.
we know that that relationship wasn't that. It was He wasn't a golden boy to the Emperor. He was just being used. But as far as the Empire saw it, he was the golden boy. So they all listened to him. And Tarkin was the one that had probably the most mutual respect with the guy, with Vader. So I think there's potential to see Tarkin, definitely potential to see the Emperor, of course, and then if we see those guys, you're going to see either repackagings, not reissues, but as I call it, repackagings of those two characters amongst maybe some others that I can't even think of off the top of my head. But I'm trying to think of who did we see in Episode 4 that we can potentially see in the Obi-Wan show besides Obi-Wan, Vader, and Tarkin, right? And the Emperor. Well, the Emperor never showed up in Episode 4, but I'm trying to think anybody on the Empire that would make it. Maybe, heck, even a Death Star gunner, right? Which I think they released at one point.
You're speaking, yeah, you're speaking truth, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of that, and there's a potential to see a ton of that in these shows and a lot of legacy characters, and they've already shown how much fan service. And plus, even besides that, they've already mentioned Thrawn. That they've got to set up the Ahsoka series. They've got to generate. They're not going to just go, whoop, whoop, here you go. Here's the Ahsoka series, and you're not going to hear anything about that particular storyline and what's going on with her until 2023. No, you're going to see that tied in to a lot of these shows next year, and to build up some interest and some hype and some anticipation. So, Desi,
yes, sir.
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead now and tie all this in. We've been talking about, how it's going to look vastly different, even if it takes up till January or February, which is not a whole lot of time. It's going to look vastly different on, sideshow.com with everything Star Wars Hot Toys. And let's tie this into now this release that I think came out of nowhere because we've been expecting Ahsoka. We've been expecting perhaps the Clone Wars Mall. We know that the Boba Fett 2 pack is coming because they moved that way up. But come on, baby. I mean, wow. What was your reaction when you saw this morning? Talk to me.
I mean, it looks good. I love this figure. It looks great. I know people are complaining that it might not be weathered enough, and that's true. It looks pretty clean, but I think they looked a little cleaner on the Mando, and that's where this figure is from. But again, I was kind of surprised. This is one of those things that's like, oh yeah, this one doesn't really have a head sculpt per se, a face sculpt, right? So this one could be one that they release early, right? It's kind of, you never know what to expect from Hot Toys, and here
No,
we
you
got
never
this.
do. And honestly, that this may not have, well, it's not that it may not have, it doesn't have a head sculpt. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of intricacies to this design from a artist perspective. Let me get your take on this. I mean, it looks like to me, as a diehard Star Wars fan, they nailed this head of the
Yeah.
Tuscan Raider. What say you?
I think it's pretty close. That's one of the things I love about Star Wars in general is their design, right? I've always said it. This is no exception to that. I think they've come pretty close to what the original was in a 1/6 scale. But I think the point here is that even if they were a little off, right? And I'm not saying they're not, but if they're a little off, it's not like a face. You don't have to be a Star Wars expert to realize like they got you know Katie Sackhoff's face wrong, or they got
Mhm.
Mark Hamill's face wrong. Anybody can tell you that. Anybody who doesn't even collect Hot Toys, right? But this, you show it to somebody who maybe knows, the Tuscan Raider, maybe, and you show them this, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is a picture from the movie, right?"
Exactly what I was just saying. And
Yeah.
honestly, I was looking back at some of those scenes from the Mandalorian, and these Raiders are clean. They are
Yeah.
clean. So if you want to blame somebody for not having enough weathering, maybe talk to Favreau and Filoni about that because I think Hot Toys captured the way it was.
Yes, just like the Scout Trooper, how it was a little different in Mando than it was in Return of the Jedi, and they followed the appearance of Mando because it is a Mando product. Same goes for this one. This is how it showed up in the season of Mando, so that's what it looks like.
Look, I mean, just wow! Look at that. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a great scene. Look, I mean, I'm telling you right now, I've already spilled my coffee over this release, and I'm already drinking the spotchka. This not only serves for the Mandalorian and for the prequels, but it certainly serves for the original trilogy. Desi, I think that there's many collectors that would buy this, not all of them, for the original trilogy collection.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Like this is a Tuscan Raider. If anybody has an issue with the weathers, with the clothes, right, with the robes not being weathered enough, if you want, you could weather it. It's pretty simple. I know that some people don't customize their figures. That's fine, But my point is, yeah, it could be an OT figure as well.
So, Desi, I don't think that they made very many of this Tuscan Raider at all. And I don't even want to bring back up the sideshow, sort everything out best selling wise to show you and everybody who's watching that it is really low down on the list. If we thought the Mud Trooper was low and the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian, this one is low. Um, I don't know if they're releasing this simultaneously in the United States and Europe and in Hong Kong. It's going to be real interesting to find that out. What do you think they're going to do with that? I mean, I don't know.
If we've been saying, right, we've been speculating, hey, some of these near simultaneous releases, is it because it's low orders, low production, and then therefore they can just air freight it over? Is if that is the case, if that is true, then you would think that that would be the case for this guy, and we should be getting notices from Sideshow soon, if that is the case. Because yes, I would think that the orders on this guy are probably low, um, given who he is. He's always been at the bottom of the list on Sideshow. If that site is accurate, right? We think it is, as far as bestsellers. So hmm, I don't think they're making a lot of this guy. It's not like the 501st.
Is this gonna make it in stock? And if it does make it in stock, Desi, how long is it gonna stay in stock?
Because of the time of year, and I go back to this, right? Yes, I think it'll make it in stock. Will it stay in stock? Probably not past December. Look how, first of all, the market is lean for everyone, for every hobby, period, going into December for Q4, right? So people are going to be scrambling to get stuff, and this is more of an adult collectible, right? But it's people buy collectibles for adults, and it's not going to last long when it's one of the few things in stock for Star Wars
I'm
and any
putting
site.
a Yeah. Well, I'm putting a yellow alert on it. I think they probably made as much of this as the Ray, and it'll probably go the way of the Ray. What did Ray lasted about 3 weeks,
Yeah.
3.5 weeks, 3 weeks. I think that it's possible this will go. I also think it's possible to go through the holidays. But as we've been talking about in this episode, probably gone come January and February, which
Oh
is
yeah.
really only 3, 4 months away. So let me go to this real quick here. Pulling this up onto the screen. We're getting some releases that we probably were not expecting to be this soon. And is it possible that this Jango Fett could come out because they already have been creating a lot of jetpacks and Mandalorian armor. Forget about Tamora Morrison head sculpts, which this comes with. And uh, personally, I say that this is going to be announced any day, Desi.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, we're getting close. We're getting close. It's supposed to be January, right? But or through March, but I think we're getting close enough. And this item does have some new elements in it that would have require new molds that we haven't seen in past Mandalorians, Boba Fett, etc. But it doesn't have that much. A lot of it is still just repaints, right? And Tamura head sculpts. So this is something that we could see very soon uh, get released in Hong Kong. And I don't know, how many orders does this thing have? Uh, it hasn't been at the top of the list for very long or anywhere near that, right? On Sideshow's website.
This is the this is the regret figure. This is a figure where people are passing on it. They're not, it's where it is right now. And it'll fly once the final production photos come out. And it's going to go like, oh, I can't believe I missed out on Dooku. I can't believe I missed out on that Obi-Wan. This is Jango Fett, baby.
Yeah,
And
it's
he's going
all
to
yeah,
be, yeah.
yeah. No, I was just say it's always the same, right? It's reasonable, but the regret's really going to set in when they find out they release Mace.
Yeah, exactly right. And we talked about that this episode.
Yep.
Okay, so this one has a head sculpt as well. So we're talking about another figure. But like that Tamora Morrison, the Jango Fett we're just talking about, this is a familiar one and a head sculpt that is essentially already done. So
Hmm.
is this another one that's going to come out of nowhere like the Tuscan Raider?
Yeah, especially if you don't see again if it's low order quantities, right? You mix that with it's only got a few molds, right? Maybe that armor, the hair, which is a little bit shorter, and the two sets of armor, and then the rest is just fabric. Good candidate for an earlier release.
Yeah, and I think that this one, just as much of as the Django, and maybe even more because of the way the other Anakins are going in the secondary market, it's going to be, oh, I should have just got that one because I could have got it for
Yep.
$260 or so.
And it won't be as long anywhere near. It won't be around for as long anywhere near how long the Dark Side Anakin was, because that was in stock for such a long time.
Well,
Pretty,
listen,
yeah.
brother, yeah, I agree. And I, I got a really funny feeling about this one. I really, really do.
Yeah.
The one I'm
Yeah,
going to
I
pull
can
up
see
on the
that.
screen.
It's another one. That's another one. This is important. I mean, how many people can say they're getting this because they're getting a Jazz Inc. Uh, Snowspeeder? I know I'm one, so I have to get this. At least one, right?
Well, this is my most anticipated figure of next year. I think you spoke about. I don't know if that's still the same
Mm-hmm.
for you.
It is.
Um, this is on par to me with the Luke Skywalker from the Mandalorian. I mean, you know how much I love Luke. But if you look at the expected ship date, April to June, and you just look, the Tuscan Raider was January to April. The word April's in there. And they just released a 40th anniversary of Lando real quickly and moved that up. I got a funny feeling that this one's going to be released in Hong Kong this year and probably go the same way as Lando and be available here simultaneously. What say you?
Again, this is one of those. As long as there's low production volumes and they can kick it out of one of their factories pretty quickly, anything is possible. I tend to think that this one might actually get released in January, like around January, which is still early
Hmm.
after the holidays, only because something like Django does still have that Mandalorian aspect to him. But again, that's just a guess, right? Like who knows? But yeah, if it's low order quantities, it's a candidate for an early release.
Okay, last two here. This year, released or not?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I'm surprised they haven't announced it yet. Announced the release in Hong Kong.
How about this one?
Yeah, probably. If I had to guess, I would say yeah. This is just another stormtrooper. So these troopers without any helmets whatsoever. I mean, I'm sorry, with helmets and no face sculpts. Like I see these before the end of the year.
And Stormtrooper Commander, I won't even pull it up. I'll just ask you.
Yeah, but that one's supposed to come out this year. I think that one had a short release. That was a Sideshow exclusive. It was supposed to, yeah, get released this year. So yeah, yep,
Man, I'm excited right now. I don't know about you. I'm excited about Star Wars right now.
very hyped. It is a great time to be a Star Wars fan right now. It really is.
Desi, I want to point out to everybody who's watching 6scalecantina.com. If you don't have this site bookmarked, you may want to consider doing so. Not only does it have all the trends for every Star Wars hot toy in the secondary market, whether it's going up or down or steady, it also has a value. So you definitely want to check it out for the market value chart and also in the biggest movers section, which are the biggest ones trending up or trending down in a particular week. But also all the videos. What's coming up for Six Scale Cantina is on here, perhaps even a flash stream. You want to be able to, and there's going to be plenty of live and raws coming with these announcements that Desi and I were talking about. So a lot of people always ask me, Desi, when is the next live and raw? Believe me, they're coming, baby.
Oh yeah,
Buckle up, buckle up. They're coming.
oh yeah.
And then,
Look forward to this.
yeah, thank you so much, thank you so much. And you can see on here too, besides channel news and secondary market news, we have a breaking news section where the latest news right now was the Lando Calrissian and the Rogue One squad leader. Just go to sixscalecantina.com and you'll get all that news as well. But also what we have in here, besides that and the market value chart, we have a resources and links page. And I want to tell everybody who's watching Desi that an easy way to be able to get a link to Metamorphic Customs and your stuff is to go into this section. And you see it's right near up on the top. I got the official Hot Toys website. I got Sideshow Collectibles. Look what's next.
Right
Metamorphic
there.
Customs.
Thank you so
So
much, sir.
no, and you can go right in there. And I want to talk a little bit about this. And let's see if it pops up. And I might have to go to this tab, and it just did. So let me actually delete this tab real quick. If this doesn't show up, let me share the screen. I
And I
do have it up here.
I wanted to say very quickly that your site, Six Scale Cantina, is such a great site. I often have people literally ask me in the Facebook groups, or ask just not me, but in a comment. It's like, look, I'm looking for the current value. What do you guys think about the value of this Star Wars figure? And I was like, have you checked Six Scale Cantina? This is exactly what the site can help you amongst many other things, right? So it is a great site. I use it all the time, to be honest. Even before I knew you, Aries, before I even knew you had a show, I found that site and it's really good. So
I really appreciate that, Desi. Thank you so much. And I'm glad. I think we've talked. I put an enormous amount of hours into this, and I enjoy it. It's a labor of love. It's not a labor of, oh, I got to do this. And it's something that I've always done in some capacity through collecting for different lines for years, collecting toys and collectibles of this nature. So it's my pleasure to, but I do put a lot of time and a lot of effort into there, and a lot of the fun that I have, and a lot of the possibilities. I do base it on a lot of the numbers and data that I collect and trying to figure out what would make sense. And while Hot Toys doesn't make sense a whole lot of the times, and just like Vegas isn't right all the times when you bet on sports, I find that it's just a great way to be able to use that as perhaps one aspect to consider when you're predicting the future on what could happen. But anyway, when you click the link Metamorphic Customs from sixscalecantina.com in the resources and links page, you get Desi Metamorphic Customs, and just look at that banner up over here. Wow! And Desi, you make incredible dioramas. You make incredible base toppers that are just so. They really. I know you're working on something for me, and you were showing it earlier, but I'm going through your site here. Why don't you go ahead and talk, or have me scroll anywhere you want to go? I'd like to just share with everybody some of the stuff you're doing right now.
yeah, so thank you so much, Aries, and yeah, this Facebook page really I post everything here and on my Instagram page as I make the bases. This is one of my latest ones actually. This was a client wanted they showed me basically Sideshow's Mythos Boba, right? And he was kind of standing on this kind of a cliff thing. That's how they had it pictured. And he wanted me to replicate that in a small base that had a little stand. That's why the little square hole is there. So that's why I did this. And he really liked it. I like to give it a lot of textures. You see the rocks here, you see the sand texture, little grass bits there. So I take out of all the one general thing I could say about all my dioramas, right, is that I try to take a lot of time to put the textures in there and the paint in there, right? That's what really makes it look realistic, if you will. What makes it stand out.
Well, this looks like it came right from Hot Toys or one of these big companies to be able to get something of this magnitude that looks this how about epic, to be honest with you. I mean, this looks like, you can use this as a set piece, as a miniature, if you will, if I'm saying the right term.
Yeah,
Um, wow.
yeah.
How
Thank you.
much yeah, and how much time does it take you, like, looking at this piece right here, how much time does that take you?
This one was about a day, and when I say a day, if you want hours, maybe about 6 hours, right?
Wow,
This one,
that's a
this
lot
one
of
was
talent.
yay big, right? But a little bigger than a standard Hot Toys base that comes, so it had some height there, and here you can see it compared with an actual boba on it. That was the size, right? And that's exactly what he wanted, right? With a little cliff going up there,
Wow.
but still small enough. It has it has a base of crotch grabber, if you will. That's what they call them. But it has that little base stand in the back. It could come off, put on. You could put it on. It was nice. I like these little small ones because it gives me a nice break in between the larger ones that I've been working on.
Now, let's say somebody wants to get something. Now, do you do bases like this, base toppers, bases, dioramas for all Hot Toys if someone would want one? And if so, or how would they actually would they go on this site and then send you a message? Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
That is the best way. Either here or if you find my Instagram page, you can send me a message there. But either way, this is the best way to get in contact with me. And if you know me on Facebook, get in contact with me. That's all I have. I don't have a web page, right? Because everything I make is handmade by myself. There is nobody else. I don't have a team of people. It's just me. So when I'm scheduling these commissions, once you contact me, when I schedule these commissions, I give myself enough time for every single commission to be able to do what I said, give it all these textures and details and really pay attention. I don't just paint them. I'm like looking at them, I paint them, and as I'm packing it out, I'm like, no, I could use a little bit more. Let me go in here, little brushstroke here. That things that you may never ever notice, but it's important to me to put into my work, right? So that's the best way to get in contact with me. And like I said, I will set project windows. Sometimes I'm very busy going out because I have so many commissions, and I like to give each commission its appropriate time, right? But if you get in a reservation with me or just get your name on my list, I will contact you once a project window opens up,
Hmm.
and we'll get a commission started. And again, just send me a message there. That's the best way.
Wow. And I'm pulling. I mean, just look at this. Oh my
Thank you, sir.
goodness gracious. I mean, now is
Yeah.
that lit up in the back?
Yeah, yeah. So this one's some of them
Wow.
have electronics. This one is what I call the Imperial Rust diorama. I did the first one, just to give it a name. I did the first one for Dante, Man of Hot Collectibles, right? He has a review on his channel. And
Hmm.
then I did, including his, I did a short run of 7 of these. So I'm still working on the sixth and seventh, the last 2 of them. That will be going out probably early next year, but I did a short run of these. This was really great because I was able to incorporate electronics into it, just lighting, right? So it's a lot of fun. Some of the elements were 3D printed, like the barrel and the probe droid, which I got from a great artist online that has 3D files from some um, Star Wars elements, such as those barrels and the greeting droid up there. So that was great to be able to print those and then paint them. Uh, and I love adding that. Painting that barrel is so much fun for me. I know it sounds silly, but adding the rust elements and the different layering, it's, it's a fun thing to do, and it's great to have the customers and the clients get them and say, "Wow, this is amazing." So
Well, I really appreciate that you sharing that with me here on the Aries Heritage Show. And look, everybody who's watching, go click on the link. I have it in the video description. So you can click right there, or you could go to sixscalecantina.com and go to the resources and links page and get Desi's link right there. But you absolutely got to go check out more of his work. He's got a ton of pictures up on there. Send him a message, and he could go ahead and get something for you that's very, very special. But Desi, that's high quality, baby. That's like high quality.
Thank you so much, Aries. Thank you. I appreciate that. I always appreciate the kind words as I tell people because I really do. It means a lot. And I just hope people are, just happy to see the work. And if you've got a commission for me and you're just let me know what you think. Always glad to hear the feedback, right? And usually, so far, it's been positive, which is great.
Well, it's no wonder because it's awesome. And then definitely do check out the review from the man of hot collectibles on that one piece that he did for Desi. I also have the link to that within the video description here, so it could save you some time. Just go into the video description. You can go ahead and click that, and see the awesome reviews that that Dante from the Man of Hot Collectibles does, and he really tells the story here, really up close and superior imagery of some of Desi's work. But Desi, this has been a lot of fun. I definitely look forward to doing this again.
I so do I. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, Aries. Love talking Star Wars, just in general. So thank you for having me on. Real pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, for those that are watching, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to sixscalecantina.com. I so very much appreciate your support. And if you liked what you watched here today and you'd like to get some expanded analysis, some heightened thoughts, or maybe you'd like to hear some conversations with the Hot Toys Wizard, or maybe you actually want to see the Hot Toys Wizard, I think, you might be able to see the Hot Toys Wizard if you're a Cantina insider. You may want to consider joining the channel. Just go ahead and click on that little button in the channel. See everything that it comes with. If it seems like it could be of an interest to you, you may want to consider joining. And also, I will be live this coming Friday on the Man of Hot Collectible. We're live every Friday, and it's either Dante's turn or my turn. This week it's Dante's turn, 9 p.m. Eastern. So you don't want to miss us there. But also, I will be live Saturday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern. So besides doing the every week Friday show at around 9 p.m. ish, I am going to from time to time get back to also doing some Saturdays. And we're going to start off the fall and winter season with this coming Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, the Market Show Live. You absolutely don't want to miss that. But anyway, thank you all so much. Remember, I don't always buy coffee out, but when I do, I buy from Six Scale Cantina. Stay thirsty, my friends. See you this weekend.